Hello everyone, this is Nick for PokerVIP.com, otherwise known as Crazy Cookie on the PokerVIP forums. And today I'm doing episode 2 of my Learning to Crush 15 minutes at a time series. And today we're going to be using Combonator to look at some GTO estimate exercises. I've put GTO just so I couldn't really think of a better way of putting it. It's more trying to find a relatively unexploitable way of playing. So this is looking at pretty much our range and determining a way that is going to make it very difficult for our opponent to be able to exploit us. I'm not going to look at villain's range for the moment. In the next episode, we will be looking at how we can exploit villain, and then I may put in an episode after that one to see how we can use the two together. But for today, we're just going to look at our range in one particular spot in 15 minutes and see if we can create a fairly unexploitable strategy. So like I said, this is episode 2. The first episode was maximizing your 15 minutes EV. I think that's really a valuable episode to go and watch. So if you haven't watched that, I would pause this and watch that now, purely because it goes through in there how to use this 15 minutes correctly, how to track your progress, you know, how to work through these episodes at the correct kind of pace. So definitely go and watch that if you haven't already. If you have, then look forward to this episode and we'll get on with it. I'm quickly going to go through the software I'm using in this episode. Combonator is a must pretty much for what I'm doing. You could do the same, I guess, on a few other pieces of software. I've put Flopzilla as optional just because I've used it to create my ranges on. You could, I suppose, do what we're going to do on Flopzilla. I think Combonator is pretty much the best software out there for this. It's the easiest, it's the most visually pleasing for me anyway. So I'd massively recommend it. I'll put up the sites in a second just to show you the costings and whatever. In fact, I'll do that now. So here we have Combonator. You can get the free trial. I think you get 7 days. I think it may be 14. Or when you download it, you download it for free, and in the free version you get these settings. To be honest, I haven't really used all of the pro ones anyway. And the number of color groups, to be honest, you could get away with just using 2 for what we're going to do. It does limit you slightly, and I tend to use up to 8. So I would definitely recommend getting it for free, trying it out, and if you like it, it's only $45. So it's not an expensive piece of software. I would say that this has made me, I don't even want to guess how much on my investment, but yeah, it's a lot more than 45. So this is a massively plus EV piece of software to get. So on combonator.com, I will speak to the guys at PokerVIP, see if we can get a deal set up on here for PokerVIP members. And then this is Flopzilla. This I've got, and you'll see I'll use it in a second. But for me, I think I've only got the basic version, so I haven't actually upgraded and paid for this because Combonator does, I think, pretty much what Flopzilla does post flop. So there's no point getting both of them, and I just use Flopzilla for the ranges. So this is where you can get Flopzilla. Again, I'll speak to PokerVIP, see if we can set something up. As for today, we are going to look at one specific spot, which is hero in the cutoff opens. Big blind calls. The flop comes down 10-7-4, two-tone. Big blind checks, and what will the hero be doing? We're going to try and do this in 15 minutes. I'm hoping to do it in under 15 minutes. If we go over by a minute or two, I don't think we can be really too disappointed. But the whole point of this series is obviously to keep it under 15 minutes. So I have got the 15-minute timer up here. So hopefully we can race the clock and see if I can do it in under 15 minutes. I'm going to try and keep this fairly simplistic and basic because I don't think there's, if you really want to go into detail in this, you're probably going to need to spend more than 15 minutes on it. But for a lot of the people on the forums and a lot of people playing poker, the information that we're going to get from 15 minutes of doing this quite simply you're going to be able to retain it a lot easier, which we spoke about in episode 1. And to be honest, it's going to give you enough of an edge, in fact, a very big edge if you keep doing it, that you're not going to need to go into too much depth. You can get it wrong by a few combos here and there and still have a pretty unexploitable strategy. And even if it's slightly exploitable because, you know, you've got 8 or 9 too many combos of bets when you know, out of your 600 combo range or whatever it is. 600 sounds like a lot of combos though. So for 300 combos and you're betting 15 combos too many, like there's not going to be very many people who are going to massively exploit you there, and they're not going to be able to pick up much EV anyway. So I'm not going to go into too much depth. I'm going to keep it quite simple. 15 minutes, I guess. Let's go. Is that going to start? That would be annoying, wouldn't it? We're starting. Okay, finally got it to work. Going to be 7 seconds short, but that's okay. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up my Flopzilla. This is my cutoff opening range. You will have a slightly different range, I suspect, but whatever. It doesn't really matter as long as you put in your range correctly. Just double check on what it is. I want to be absolutely sure we get it bang on. 10-8, okay. Got a few more combos in there. King 7, cool. That looks about right. Maybe that, and that. Cool. So here we have our cutoff opening range. Don't need to worry about Flopzilla anymore. We've got our board texture. So now let's go post-flop. I won't go into the details of combinator today. I can do that on another session if we want to. So our board, I've put it in down here, 10 of clubs, 7 of clubs, 4 of hearts. The first thing I do here is really get an idea of how well we hit this board. So in group 1 to start off with, I'm going to put in all of our nutted combos. So that's 10, 7s and 4s. We haven't actually got any 2 pairs here, and I'm not going to worry about combo draws just for the moment. Next, I'm going to switch to group 2, and I'm going to look at all of our top pair plus, which is going to be this. And you can see on the right here, we've got the grouped combos and the ungrouped combos. Grouped obviously the ones, group 1 and 2, which is down here. Ungrouped is the ones we haven't put into anything yet. Group 3, I'm going to have second pair, which is going to be these. These are probably going to be hands which checking, so called on quite a few turns. Group 4, I'm going to have all of our draws. So I'm going to start off with all the straight draws. And then we're going to put in our flush draws. Not worrying for the moment on like if we've got, you know, on the strength of the draw, just for the moment. Group 5, I'm going to put in our backdoor flush draws. Group 6, I'm going to put in when we block some of villain's flush draws. So I'm going to put in all of our Broadway combos with a club in them. And I'm also going to put in when we block the nut flush draw down here as well. So this is the first thing I do, and we can see that this is actually a decent enough board for us. 63% of the time, 63.6% of the time, we have a hand which has either hit the board or is going to be a good enough hand to bluff with, which is quite nice. I'm not going to go into villain's range. I'm going to assume that this board is one which he's going to also have a fair few of these hands in. We may have a few more top pair combos than him because we have more over pairs. But for the moment, it's just interesting to see that 41% of our range when we open, 25% of our range when we open in the cutoff flops top pair or better on this board, which is quite nice. We can also see that group 3, second pair, we have 10% of hands. And what's really interesting here is we haven't actually got too many flush draws. Only 10% of our range are flush draws and straight draws actually. Only 5% of our range are going to be backdoor flush draws, and then we do have 12% of good bluffing combos, which also have some backdoors. So that's what I'd do first, just get a good idea that this board is actually going to be a decent enough board for us to bet on. That took me less than 4 minutes to get an idea of, okay, this is going to be a pretty good board for us to bet on. So my C-bet percentage, I'm now going to be saying it's going to be in the 70% plus region. in terms of how often I'm going to, just because I know that I've actually got quite a lot of top pair plus hands here. Therefore, I can actually be bluffing quite a bit. I've also got a lot of good draws, so this could even be a board which, from an exploitative point of view, it may be best to bet nearly 100% of the time. But we're doing more of an unexploitable strategy today. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in the hands in group 1 that I'm going to bet for value. So we're going to start off again with our sets, and then I'm going to say King 10 plus and overpairs are going to be value bets. We can begin checking some of these, but to be honest, I much prefer betting. If we face a raise, it's more likely to be he can have 7s and 4s. We block top pair, which is good. If we have jacks for aces and they check raise, they can have 10s as well. But I'm not going to be folding to a check raise because they're going to have they're going to have draws, they're going to have backdoor flush draws, all of that kind of stuff. So this is kind of like my value range. I'm then going to put in now in group 4, and I'm going to come back to this why. I'm going to put the hands that I'm going to be checking with, which are going to protect my slightly weaker checking range. So that's going to be the top pair, weaker kicker, second pair combos. These are all hands which I don't see any value in betting. If the 7 was a 5, then I might begin betting some of them because a pair of 5s is going to be quite a bit weaker. But I think a 7 is just about strong enough that we can check and call on quite a few turns, especially against people who like to stab. Okay, so group 2 is now going to be the hands that I'm going to be happy to semi-bluff with. So I'm going to start off with all of our draws. All of our straight draws. So that's 9-8, 8-6, and 6-5. 8-6, obviously, if we make 5, if a 5 comes or a 9 comes, make a straight. So it's also a straight draw. Now I'm going to go with our flush draws. I'm going to include these to start off with. These sort of like Jack 9 through Ace 9 and Jack 8 through Ace 8. These are going to be some of our best flush draws to bet because they do block 8, 9. They block hands like Queen 10, Jack 10, Queen Jack of clubs. So we're going to get a lot of folds when we have this section of hands here. So this is going to be our best flush draw bluffing combos. And then I'm also going to bet all of our weaker nut flush draws. I think also we probably want to be betting all of our non-nut flush draws. So King, Queen, Jack, King, Queen, King, Jack, and Queen Jack suited. I don't think we can really begin checking these back to call. The stronger nut flush draws, we might begin doing that with. So I'm going to leave those just for the moment to begin working how we're gonna bet some of these and check some of these later on. Group 3, I'm now gonna this is gonna be a slightly more of our weaker betting range. So the first hands I'm gonna put in are gonna be our backdoor flush draws, and pretty much the same range as we had before. Again, these are going to block hands. Queen Jack blocks Queen 10 and Jack 10, so it's going to be a fantastic bet to have in there. And having the backdoor flush draw means that having Ace 3 of hearts means we're going to be able to potentially barrel on more cards. It also has a backdoor straight draw as well, and it has an overcard. So these hands are quite nice to bet. Looking at some other hands, we'll turn the suit selection off. So now it's going to select all hands. I think that all of our Broadway combos here are pretty good to bet, whether they have a club or not. Because they're going to bet a lot of, they're going to block a lot of villains' top pair combos. So again, Queen Jack blocks Queen 10 and Jack 10. That kind of idea. I'm quickly now going to have a look and see at our range so far, and we can see that 57 combos are betting for value, and 87 combos are weaker bluffs, so that if we face a raise, we're probably going to have to fold them. We do have some hands in here which have some gut shots, but even these, a gut shot on a backdoor flush draw potentially could be a call, but probably not in most scenarios. And then we've got these 28 combos here which are pretty strong. So we're looking at the moment as pretty much a 50-50 pure bluff to value / semi bluff ratio. And we can therefore increase the number of bluffs quite significantly on the flop. I'm tending here to go for around a quarter of our range needs to be pretty strong. The next quarter of our range can be semi-bluffs, and then the next half can be pure bluffs. And we can actually go a little bit wide with our pure bluffs. So continuing with range 3, I'm going to select the hands which don't have backdoor flush draws. And again, these combos here, and these combos here are all going to be bets as well, because again they block the top pair combos a lot. So anything that doesn't have a flush draw or backdoor flush draw in here is also going to be a bet. And again, same with these 8-9, Ace-9, Jack-9, all these combos I think are also good to bluff as well. So now we're looking a little bit wider betting range. We've got 118 bluff combos compared to that's 85 value / semi bluff combos. So now we're looking much closer to where we want to be, and we can also see that if we ignore this 18% of hands here, we've now reached a stage where we're betting around 60%. So we're quite close to that original 70% c-bet range that we were looking for. Because we have got up to quite a high number of bluff combos, I am actually going to include at least 2 of our ace queen, ace jack of club combos. Ace king of clubs, you could check to then call the turn. I quite like having a couple of nut flush draws in my range. It could be that ace 4 of clubs is a good one to check back as well. We haven't really got time to faff around with those, but we can bear that in mind. And then the final thing I'm going to do is I'm going to include when we have nut flush draw blockers in our air range. Cool. Okay. So now we're just going to have sort of like a quick review and make sure we're in a good sort of position. Group 1, 57 combos is our value range. Group 2, 30 combos are our semi-bluffing range, which are going to be able to call a raise a lot of the time because they either have a draw or a flush draw. They could even free bet as well. And group 3 is our quote-unquote pure bluffs, but these have really good blockers a lot of the time, and they can have backdoor flush draws, gut shots, all of those. So this isn't a really weak range here. You know, on some boards, this 124 combos is really weak, and that's when we want to begin saying, well, if it's a board we don't really hit that well, we want to cut out on a lot of those really weak combos. But for here, I think it's fine. I would include 5-4 suited here in our in either of these ranges as well. It's only going to be 3 combos, so I'm not going to worry about it too much. But this could I think 5-4 suited can be a bet, blocking pocket 4s. We can turn 2 pair, we can turn some straight draws, and it's a good hand to then bet and check down. If we look at our checking range now, 56 combos are going to be potential completely give up, and those combos are, this is a good thing we can see as well to see if I've forgotten anything. Or it looks like, okay, so the ones we're checking back are these non-flush draw or backdoor flush draw ace highs, and when we don't block the nut flush draw. These could all be put into our betting range, and I think that would be absolutely fine. Some pocket pairs, and then ace king of clubs. If we also look at group 4, which we put into our checking range to then call, we can see we've got 60 combos. So this is actually pretty well balanced here. And if villain bets, you know, pot on the turn, we're going to be probably calling enough to make it quite difficult for him to actually get any, to make his bet profitable. Especially if he begins betting flush draws and we were to have a few more nut flush draws in our range. Quickly put ace king in this there. And then, of course, also sometimes we're going to make a set with 2s, 3s, 5s, and 6s, or we're going to make top pair with these with our ace X combos. So they're actually pretty nice hands to check back as well. Yeah, I think that's about it. I don't need to review it another time. Sweet. So we'll pause the timer. Okay. And well, okay, whatever. We'll just let it run out. We can see that in 13 minutes there, we created a strategy, and like this is not going to be perfect. But we created a strategy which, you know, if we get rid of group 4, is around it's about 60% combos, 60% of c-betting range. So we might say, okay, we'll bet these, all of the ace 9 through ace 8 combos. And maybe, you know, when we have ace 6, which blocks 5, 6, and ace 5, maybe we bet all of those. And then we're up to more like a 70% betting range, which would be fine. We do have a few more bluff combos in there now, but again, that's probably about right. So you can see that there are going to be slightly different ways of doing this. If you're against, and this is then when you get to more the exploitative side of things. If somebody's folding a lot, then you can begin to bet all of the ace highs, and we can just check back some of these. You could bet ace at 5-4, and if they're playing okay, you can begin to take some of those slightly weaker combos out of your range, knowing that, you know, it isn't affecting your checking range anyway. So yeah, we're coming up to the final minute. I'm kind of now just trying to fill out the final minute when we don't really need to. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you learned something from it. Definitely go out and play around with this. You literally need to spend 15 minutes a day. You saw me do that then in 14 minutes whilst talking, and it will help you massively, because what you'll do is you'll get into a situation like this where it will be this board or similar board, and you'll be like, I know that this is a decent board for me. I know that I'm betting a lot of combos, and that my checking range is going to consist of top pair, weak kicker, and second pair, and some hands which I'm going to give up with. The rest are going to be bets, and I know that, you know, I can't really be betting too much because I have 57. I have, you know, a decent number of top pair plus combos, a good sample of or a good selection of. Thank you. Yeah, probably should turn that off before. A good selection of draws. And then, to be honest, our pure bluffs are going to be pretty good at blocking anyway. So that's how you'll then use it in game. You won't be able to sit there and say, oh, I have exactly 57 combos of top pair plus, which I'm going to be betting. That's, you know, it's not very many people who can do that. But if you do this enough, you're going to be able to recognize boards and situations where you say, yeah, my range is actually pretty good for this board, and my checking range is going to be designed in a way that it's not going to be exploitable. So yeah, I think that was quite a successful first episode to keep it under 15 minutes. Next episode, we're going to be looking at the same, very similar. We'll pick a different board and situation because it will get a bit boring otherwise. But we're going to look at villain's range and how we can then determine whether a board hits his range well or not. And from that, we can begin to determine, okay, this is a board which we want to be bluffing a lot on. This is a board, or it could be that this is a board which we don't want to be bluffing loads on, but we do have good combos to semi-bluff. We'll go into that more next time. So yeah, hope you enjoyed that. Hope you learned something. This has been Nick for PokerVIP.com, and I'll see you in the next episode.